It is May 10th, 2025. I am John, a Technocrat. Please consider buying me a cup of coffee. Um, this is my part 3 on videos talking about the Wuhan Virology Institute, or the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and the COVID-19 breakout. One thing I want to point out is that the Wuhan Institute of Virology is a premier global research facility with biosafety level 4 capabilities. When we look at the chart of biosafety levels and compare what they can work with, an interesting point is that to work with the SARS-CoV or the SARS-CoV family of viruses, it actually only requires a biosafety level 3 laboratory, but they were working with it at biosafety level 4 ratings. This doesn't mean they were perfect. Now, another thing to take into consideration with this is that as of 2023, there were 51 operational biosafety level 4 laboratories worldwide, with an additional 3 under construction and 15 planned, for a total of 69 facilities across 27 countries. These labs were designed for the research of the most dangerous pathogens, including Ebola and the Marburg viruses, which require the highest level of biocontainment. When we look at the countries that have these operational, 14 of them are in the United States. We have an additional 1 under construction and 2 that are planned. The United Kingdom has 9, Germany has 4, Australia has 4, Russia has 3, China has 2, and then the list goes on, and even coming down to a small country like, Hungary, the Czech Republic, Belarus, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, the Philippines, Brazil, and Argentina are planning on building one. They haven't started yet, but it's in the works. My point here is that there are a lot of countries that have a bio level or a biosafety level 4 research facility, and are doing research. Now, one problem with this is that despite the critical importance of such research, is that only about 25% of these facilities, score well in terms of safety. They're all, that's not saying that they're all unsafe. It's just saying compared to where we generally think they should be, they're not as safe, and they're not taking as good of precautions as they should be. However, it is really important for them to research these materials, because it allows scientists to study the, deadly viruses and help us understand how to fight against them, to develop diagnostics, vaccines, antiviral treatments, to test biological countermeasures under controlled conditions. For example, researching, in biosafety level 4 settings was critical to understanding Ebola virus dynamics and how it played a key role in effects against novel threats like COVID-19 and the variants of it. Some points around this are that 80% of these facilities are in areas of urban concentration, which is a concern from the standpoint that if there is an accident, it's in the middle of an area of urban concentration. Uh, Another thing is that of the biosecurity scores, out of the 27 countries with biosecurity level 4 labs, only 12 have high biosecurity scores, indicating varying levels of preparedness and safety protocols. Um, and then the growth trends, that the number of biosafety level 4 labs have doubled since 2013. And there's a global trend in researching and learning these, the science and the skills around virology within humanity in general. um, while the gain of function research is subject to stringent oversight and ethical review, especially when involving, pathogens with pandemic potential, it's not made public knowledge as to where and who is doing all of this research. A lot of it is being done, a lot of it is public, but a lot of it is not public. Still, as of 2022, there were more than 2,000 publications about research involving gain of function. Though most were done involving less dangerous pathogens, and thus required lower safety requirements. A number of these were with more or higher, dangerous pathogens. Anyway, prior to the COVID-19 outbreak, the Wuhan Institute of Virology had received both internal and external warnings about biosafety risks. The U.S. diplomatic cables from 2018 had raised concerns about insufficiently trained staff, the potential risks of a lab accident involving bat coronaviruses. And while these were not specifically really concerning red flags, they were enough of a concern that a lot of pressure was being put upon them to do better. It is alleged that the Wuhan Institute of Virology had 20 times the number of safety failure incidents compared to the equivalent European labs. But none of those incidents involved any kind of a breakout. This is also not verified because of the lack of transparency involved. It's really hard to know just exactly what was going on in not just this lab, but in labs in general. It should be noted that in the United States, from the same source that's making these allegations, the biosafety level 4 labs had 2 times the safety failure incidents compared to their equivalent European labs. Now, some of the main points I wanted to make in here was that the Wuhan the Wuhan Institute of Virology, I keep putting these words backwards, was one of many biosafety level 4 labs working on dangerous pathogens in 2019 and in performing gain of function research. And that while they did have poor safety records, they had not had any real breakout, and compared to a biosafety level 3 lab, they were still much higher safety levels, relatively speaking. Now, I think in general, all of these labs need to have better safety levels applied to them. Not just in China, but in general. more caution and should be taken than is being taken. Even though a lot of caution is being taken, it's not enough, in my opinion. Another point is that having the United States invest into research that's being done in a foreign lab, like the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China, it allows us to have an insight into what's going on in that lab, how they're doing the research, what their safety is like, and to be able to put some influence over them, over what they're doing with their research and the safety level that's going on around that research. Another thing is that researching gain of function, loss of function, and the modification of function for viruses is all critically important to researching viruses in general, as well as to researching this with its relation to vesicles because of the similarity between viruses and vesicles. And this all applies to not only virology, but to bacteriology, genetic engineering, to the future development of AI wetware, and much more. If in the United States we stop research around gain of function for viruses, this is going to be bad for the United States. It's going to cause the United States to fall behind what other countries are in their terms of the technology around this type of, around virology and being able to make, modify, and use viruses and vesicles and similar types of things as tools for doing all kinds of different things. This would eventually, if we fall too far behind in this type of knowledge, it will put the U.S. at risk of being not just dominated in these technological areas by other countries, but of losing the AI race. Because at some point, I mean, not right now, but at some point, the AI race is going to be won in wetware living cybernetic systems. And key to those systems is going to be this type of research around being able, because we need to be able to control viruses and vesicles and how they operate on a subcellular level within biological systems. It's really important. Now, Dr. Shi Zhengli, I'm probably butchering her name, she is a prominent Chinese virologist who was nicknamed the Bat One during the COVID-19 pandemic. And she was leading the Center for Emerging Infectious Diseases at the Wuhan Institute of Virology at that time. I'm not 100% sure if she still is, but she has an extensive public record with more than 160 research works and more than 45,000 citations for her work. And multiple of those publications involve gain of research, using gain of function research. The most notable of these was in 2015 around the chimeric bat coronavirus study, 2017 with genetic components of SARS in bat populations, and 2019 with the bat coronaviruses in China. Now, this is pointing out that we know she was doing gain of function research prior to the outbreak of COVID-19. It's also something that there was some pushback from the scientific community that they were concerned about the safety of what she was doing, and they were pushing her to either stop or to not do as much or to improve her safety around, doing the gain of function research that she had been doing. The ability to influence this was being applied through the United States having these partnership relations with helping to fund the research that was being done. The fact that there was a foothold by the United States into what was being done in Wuhan allowed us to understand and know better what was going on in the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and to be able to apply some influence upon what was being done and the safety around it. That doesn't mean how effective the influence worked out. It's really unclear to me on that, and it's unclear to me whether or not she stopped or slowed down in her, her research directly around the gain of function with relation to this. Now, it's important to understand that Dr. Shi Zhengli was certain that a virus like COVID-19 was going to evolve from that bat population. She was 100% convinced that given time, a virus like COVID-19 was going to come out and we were going to have a pandemic around it. And that was part of her whole mindset, was racing against this time clock in order to be ahead of what was going to naturally come out and hit. Now, she and her team are almost certainly the leading experts in that particular type of virus because of their location, to the source of where the virus was coming out of. Her predictions were very likely correct. Now, that doesn't mean that exactly what happened, but the point that I'm trying to get at is that she was trying really hard to do something that would have been a good thing to do to get ahead of what was going to happen. And part of helping her do that was this gain of function research. So going into it, the motive was a beneficial motive. There was no, evil intent involved here, which I think some people feel like there was. Anyway, I am going to stop this at this point, and in the next part, I'll go into what I think, likely happened, and the possibilities and probabilities involved in that.